Welcome back to the Bryan Devore Connection. I'm your host, Bryan Devore. Multi-generational living. It's a big hot topic right now because society is aging and we need to take care of our loved ones, and that is one way to do it. So here to talk about multi-generational living, his view on it, and his backstory, which is amazing, is my friend Danniel. Danniel, thanks for coming down today, all the way from Los Angeles.
Yes, it was quite a ride, and I'm so happy that you invited me here. I'm watching your show, I'm following it, and I'm following everything that you do within the industry, and it's a big inspiration. I'm actually trying to do similar things up there in LA.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're a big inspiration.
Well,
so thank you for having me. It
my
means
pleasure.
a lot,
And I appreciate
it's worth the
that.
drive.
Good.
It's worth 3 hours.
Well, we're gonna make it worth your while because you're gonna have a lot of good information to share. You have an amazing backstory that got you into this whole world of multi-generational living.
Totally.
Please share it.
It's an interesting one because I did not come from this world whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've been an executive in the construction industry. I understood this world, built a career in this world, and then kind of had an opportunity to move to California. You don't say no to that. During the move, I moved my entire family. All our belongings were stolen. So we moved into a relatively bigger house than what we ever used to live in, but it was just empty. So without getting into why and how that happened, I can tell you that one thing definitely inspired us is to realize that there's things to do in this space. Same week I'm getting a phone call from my mother. My mother was living with my dad, and he was diagnosed with Alzheimer probably 6-7 years prior to that. And she just called me and said, look, I've been his caregiver for so long, I just can't. We got to give him away to a facility, to a nursing home. It's beyond and above. I cannot handle it. And, I understood intuitively. I didn't know and connected to the statistics that must be so hard. I cannot judge her. And having this empty house, I looked at my wife. My wife looked at me. I'm like, it's no brainer. We got to do it. We got to bring them here. We have so much space. We can totally close the garage and create that separate area. Mom and dad will be close to us, but it will be a full separation. So it's not going to be living in the same house, but definitely close by. And for me, it was a life mission because I didn't want to see my dad ending up in assisted living. No bad comments on those facilities. They're doing their best, but you can never give the same love and compassion that you as a son can do versus a facility. So my mom, even though it was not so easy for her to accept it, she agreed, and we decided to import them all the way across the ocean to live with us. So we started the construction, and everything went well. And 2 days before I'm jumping on a flight, 15 hours flight to pick them up, the house got burned. It was during the last phase of the construction. They installed the gate, and it just started a fire that put us in a very awkward situation because now all my plans of bringing my parents to live in separation is not happening.
Literally up in smoke.
Up in smoke. But I continued as a good entrepreneur like yourself. I move on. And the mountain is just a mountain. We passed it. We went there. We picked them up. But now we live together. Now there's no separation. Now I literally see how my dad walks, how he communicate, what it is to be a caregiver. What does it mean to be safe at your home? So suddenly I'm like, wait a minute, we built a unit that got burned, but we didn't think about those things. We didn't think about the grab bars and the ramps and the threshold. Oh my God, in a way, things had happened because now I can redesign the unit to make sure it's safe. So suddenly I realized that living this challenging experience, it was not easy because the separation was not there. Dad, stage 6-7 Alzheimer, we're talking about a very challenging situation. And yet, when you look at the big picture, oh my God. You see your mom that you just saved her. You saved a caregiver. She's the happiest person in the world. And she wasn't.
Support.
And she wasn't. She was in her 50s. She would say, if I can die tomorrow, I'll do it. And that's somebody that now in her 80s, she said, I want another 10 years. So check on that. Dad was so happy. He was surrounded by the loved ones. We took care of them till his last breath. And he was amazing. And he was happy. My boys, they see the real life. They see a grandfather that is dying. They see not easy, bubbly situations that, hey, this is life. And as much as we're trying to protect our kids, there are some things that they need to be aware of.
Yeah.
And for me and my wife, it's such a pleasure to have a meaningful thing, to bring my parents, to be there for them, to be a caregiver. It's almost like in the same meaningful level of being a parent. And that was just happy moment for me, very meaningful, but also financially. You know, you take two budgets, you combine them together in this crazy cost of living situation we're living in, and suddenly you have a very, very good option. Now, it's not for everybody. I'm fully aware of interaction between in-laws and parents. We live in a complex world, but some people do have a healthy relationship. And even though they do have a healthy relationship, I strongly suggest to speak with me before they're jumping into it, just so they will understand the benefit, the challenges, and how to make sure that this becoming heaven. So you see, like from experiencing that, I was like, wow, that is my life mission. That's what I was waiting for my entire life, to have something that truly can move the needle in our society just a bit, because it's a good thing. It solves so many issues of the loneliness that we know equals to 15 cigarettes per day, of financial constraints that people are sitting on ridiculous equity in this state, and yet they're maybe very low in cash. But there's an option to still grow that with a kind of out-of-the-box thinking. And I did not invent anything. This is something that exists in the world. It still exists in some cultures. And as we can adopt a sushi and a pizza, I feel that we can be open to the way they live. And it's just an option, and I'm there to support the families all the way from, you know, helping them to conceptualize how it's going to look, if it's a good match, if it's a good thing to do. Because sometimes it's not. And I had a meeting with a family where I realized the clashing and the tension level is so bad that for me, I don't want to go into it. And I told them, I'm like, I don't think it's the right fit for you. But for some it is, and it can be just heaven in our complex life that we're living in right now.
It's an amazing story. And I remember when you shared it with me the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like this happened, then this happened. I mean, but everything lined up to put you where you are today,
Totally.
to help others experience what you did. And there's so much to unpack there as far as, you know, the loneliness and isolation that this alleviates, the financial constraints that people have of how am I going to afford senior living? You know, well, if you come here, we're two budgets together, all that kind of stuff.
But even, you know, once I got into this industry, when you're saying, okay, let's look about assisted living facility, look at other options. You know, even if you can cut if we're talking about somebody with Alzheimer, if I can at least have my dad or my parents with me within the first steps of the Alzheimer, maybe stage 6 and 7 are a bit harsh. And I also felt that way towards the end, that the hospice was maybe too much. But but that's just a great option.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to ask one question, and then we'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what you do. I've heard multi-generational, I've heard intergenerational, and you help kind of clarify that. What is the difference?
Yeah, so the multi-generational talks about the different generational that lives under one roof, but these are family members. And intergenerationals are just different generations, but they are not necessarily family members. So there's like Generation United, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that try to encourage that dynamic, this connection between seniors and people that are younger. So that's...
Yeah. And you're seeing that more as far, even if with universities are researching multi-generational living, intergenerational living as a great option. And like you said, other countries, they've been doing it for as long as time. Families have been staying together and having 3 generations, 4 generations all together. And the U.S. is finally waking up and saying, hey, this could be good for us.
You know, I mean, firstly, I don't think the U.S. is still there. And that's where I feel that this is my life mission to, you know, to be here and to write the book that I wrote and do the TEDx talks and just make people think that this is just a valid option.
Yeah.
Because people automatically, you know, the reaction when I say, oh, I live with my parents. What do you mean you live with your parents? You know, it's like,
yeah, right.
Why would you
It's
do
a
that?
stigma.
Well, we're separated. We're living under one roof, but they have their life, I have my life. It's not what you think. It's just a better way to look at life and really make the best of it and build your legacy. And again, if you know that the game plan in the end of the day is to send your parents to an assisted living, try to maximize the time they're with you, right? Because Once you're getting into assisted living, you don't know how long you're going to be there, which means you don't know how much money you will need. And that might be a problem. And not everybody are insured properly. And I would say probably, I think 40 or 50% are not insured.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, and we need to be creative. And what we see right now in the world, if we don't take care of ourselves, nobody will.
Right.
The government will not, and the politicians will not, and even good people around us. People are really kind of not altruistic enough. So at least you can kind of practice it within your family.
Right.
And because family is still a very strong core. And I think that we as a parent, the newer generation, we have a different connection with our kids. Much closer and much more bonded than what we have with our parents, that were more like just the educator. I wouldn't say friends, but we are more connected emotionally. You know, that this, I can see myself with interacting with my kids.
Yeah.
Much more I feel that what my parents thought about interacting with me when I grew up.
Right. Yeah.
So it all comes up. And lastly, just to add that, because we're talking here about aging parents and seniors, but what about your kids? We live in the boomerang generation where kids finish college.
They're coming back.
60% of them coming back, 57%, I believe it's the accurate number.
Yeah.
So if 57% of them are coming back, don't you want to make the best of it?
Right.
So if they're coming back home, and now it's the mom-dad interaction, not the best thing, not the best experience. But if they have their own separate location where grandma no longer lives, and now we have a space that they can stay there, so they will have a full responsibility, the full separation, they will be independent, but still be able to save money. And so that's also parenthood. So for me, it's not just for sick parents or for financial situation, it's really longevity, forever home that you build. And for your listeners and the real estate community, we are all part of it. And I'm not saying push for it, but hey, this is an option. Did you hear about it? It's an interesting thing. And maybe two families can go and buy a bigger property. And again, building the legacy of the family versus being in a reactive mode of like, oh my God, how will I afford this care? How will I afford assisted living? Well, when the family is together, things are much better.
Yeah.
You know, decisions are being done better. The pool of the finance is better. It's just a better place to be.
Yeah. So there's some different options that people can look at, and I want to talk about how you help them get there. You know, I have clients who say, well, they want to stay in their current home and add an ADU for the kids to come. Or they want to build an ADU, they're going to go live in the ADU, and the kids are going to live in their house. Or maybe they're going to go look for a home together that's already constructed the way it's best for their family. There's lots of different options.
Absolutely.
What do you do to help them?
And you definitely touched a lot of them, because firstly, ADU. It's a fantastic thing that is growing now in California, and I think that everybody in the real estate industry need to understand that value, and also when looking at the property, looking at the size of the lot and see the ability to even, you know, install something right there in the lot. So, and that's where I'm gonna talk. So the options are as follows. Sometimes you can just do some adjustment in the house. You know, some layouts of the houses, even like when my parents and I kind of schlepped between different houses, the first house we got in was not, you know, a full separation, but it was structured in a way that all you need to put is a nice great wall and the full separation is achieved, right? So it depends on the layout of the house. You can create that separation very easy. It can go from a garage conversion. It can go to literally to build a separate ADU in a yard, or reach out to some of those ADU companies that already creating a unit that is ready to install. They literally drop it in your yard. And some of them are so sufficient, they don't even need to connect to your infrastructure of your house. The electricity they're getting from the sun, you know, the water, they probably recycle it from the air. There's technology that generate water from air.
Wow.
So it's all kind of like, you don't need to put the labor to connect it. So when you look at this and the AD rules of, hey, you can sell, if this is a separate unit, you can sell it separately.
Right.
So now you have a total separate property.
Right.
So again, that's the build of the wealth. And in addition to that, there's different financial tools. There are reverse mortgages. There's a lot of options. Once you have the equity, and that's something that we can definitely identify in San Diego, in LA, in North California, people are sitting on huge equity and they're not utilizing it to the best. And when you use, let's say, reverse mortgage, or again, there's more companies popping up with creative solution of how to kind of get you cash for the equity. So the equity is something that you need to play with. So once you bring a family in, then you can rent their own house, right, to sponsor that. You can take a reverse mortgage and not paying it, so then you don't have the stress. You still want to return the money, and that's what, in the reverse mortgage industry, that's the caveat, right? Like, wait a minute, so how much money I will own after 10 years?
Right.
So no, I think that you should return it, but in your own pace, right? Because when you rent, let's say, an ADU for a caregiver, which is another creative thing that I work with some other caregiving agency, they tell me, Daniel, if I can put my caregiver in the heart of an affluent neighborhood, I will be more than happy to collaborate with you, even giving that level of service to the people in the house free of charge. I'm like, why? Because the biggest challenge of a home care agency is the fact that it's hard for them to maintain the caregivers.
Right.
And one of the reasons it's hard to maintain the caregivers is because they don't live in the affluent area. So for them, they have to drive all the way. It's to begin with not the optimal situation. And that's why when they're being offered $1 more or better location,
They're
they
all
leave.
over it.
So no retention. That is ability to create retention for the home care agency, but create a value to the people that just build an ADU, and now they can utilize it for their own well-being. Again, not being reactive, being proactive. Start building this ADU when you are in your 60 or 65. Don't wait to do that in your 70s, because that is, the proactive route to have all your ducks in a row.
So if anyone's thinking about this, after they see this video, they say, okay, this may be an option for me. They call you, and then what?
So we start a process, and it's really pretty much right to the point. So I'm, within my journey, I was able to build this amazing ecosystem around me. So that's number one. I am really connected to every service provider within this world. So if it's a family with Alzheimer's, so I know how to mitigate it and kind of push them to those resources. And if they have ALS, God forbid, or Parkinson's disease, every case is very different. So I start with the first step is the matching maker. And I utilize different methods to really see that there is a good match within the family. And when I'm saying good match, look, we're always going to have our own dynamic, but there are some personality clashes that just going to rule the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you just do the whole process, the finance, the headache, putting everybody together and just fail on that, it just makes no sense. So that's the first step. The second step, we're meeting with a financial advisor. And everything that I'm sharing with you is free of charge just for the consultation part. That part I don't charge. Then we go to the part of the financial, and we examine and we really see what's their situation and what it will be the best constellation for that family. And once we agree that the best constellation for the family is multi-generation living, everybody excited about this option, now we go to the design and the planning, right? And that's where your previous question about what are the options, that's where we bring those options. So it depends, because some families saying, I don't need the whole design, just build a few walls and create that separation. For me, the next part is probably the most crucial one, and that's the way I kind of escort the family through this process and making sure that I'm giving them from my wealth of knowledge of living in a multi-generation living, not just during the fire, but actually even before that, because I lived with my in-laws where we did some mistakes that we were able to fix with this recreation of my parents. So all of that is really important, because you don't want to go with a healthy family that everything works well to a place where there are dramas, and there need to be ground rules. And for me to come as a third party, I'm not mom that I don't want to listen to my mom, and I'm not dad, and I'm not the daughter or the son. What do they understand? They're just kids. I am this middleman that tells them, guys, these are the ground rules, And this is very, very important. Judgment, for example, And I'll give my own personal story. when when my mom dealt with my dad, you know, she still obviously took care of him even his last stage. We had a caregiver, myself. She would lose it. She would go ballistic. She would get upset. She almost choke him for a second because again, it's hard. I don't blame her. Now, for me, as somebody that would just, you know, kind of join to this Alzheimer journey, everything is still fresh. I'm like, yay, caregiver. I had much more energy than her that being with him for so long. I realized the last thing I can do is judge her. So I looked at her in the eyes. I'm like, I totally get you. The way you act, I want to make sure you understand. You are A-okay. This is okay to feel that way. This is okay to act that way. I just want you to remember I'm here. And the caregiver is here. And we're just going to jump in whenever it's hard for you. Don't get to the place that you're frustrated. So automatically she feels not judged. She feels at home. Because at home you can curse, you can slap, you can do whatever you want. And she did. And I give her the legitimacy, but I give her the solution. And that's the importance of how to deal with those situations. And that's why I think my part of this process is so crucial. Because I know that, and I can talk about the benefits from the financial to the emotional, but to manage this process, really important to follow those guidelines.
Right. And in your case, you had eyes on your family. You could step in when you needed to versus, you know, mom taking care of dad somewhere else. You don't know what's going on. It's really a great option for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And another thing that we are offering many times, it's almost like a training for the family. It's just, it takes me to a very specific moment. I don't know if I share this with you. My dad stood up in the middle of the living room. We were sitting, you know, just kind of talking with each other. Suddenly, he dropped his pants. And right there.
Yep.
My mom, she's like, what do we do? We gotta send him. We cannot take care of him. It's not our control. And I'm standing in the middle. Listen to mom, like, oh my God, that's crazy. What do I do? I'm frozen too.
Yeah.
And my wife, my wife is a nurse. She looks at me. She's like, what's wrong with you? Come on. Only a few years ago, you changed diaper to your kids. They pee on you, you smell their poo. And by the way, the poo of an older guy is not as much stinky as the poo of a kid. And for a second, I'm like, wow. Felt embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right? That for a second, I agree with mom. Maybe we should put him in assisted living. And I'm like, right. So she took me with my, hand and showed me what to do. Showed me how to pick it up, even though I knew how to put a diaper, that's a bit different, but I literally got the tools from her, the basic, to know how to take care of that. And when things got complicated, she needed to get more involved, in the hospice part. But we can train families to do that. We can give them the confidence that if a situation like that, like exception from the norm happening, come on, it's your dad.
Yeah.
I did not have any problem to change thousands of diapers to my kids. My dad that raised me, that brought me to where I am, who I am, cannot change his diaper.
Right.
Cannot be there for him. Shame of me. So I don't want to make people feel not comfortable, but I want to make sure that people understand, this is all right. I mean, today I feel, and it's not that I think that I expect my kids to take care of me, but I gave them an example, a live example, and I see how they act, and I see how they treat seniors, and that's priceless.
That's all you can ask for. Daniel's information is on screen. Give him a call. Talk to him about his experience, if this might be for you. Website is there as well, so you can check out everything he has to offer. But Danniel, thank you so much for sharing all this great information.
Thank you,
I can't wait to get this out there so it sort of opens people's eyes up to what's possible.
Absolutely. Looking forward to work with you and your team and everybody involved.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danniel.
Thank you.